Gen Z can't save money. Millennials never had it as hard. You've probably heard both of those in the same comment section on the same day. Neither one is actually true. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about which generation is actually better with money, and why that question is a lot messier than either side of that argument wants it to be. If you've ever had this exact debate with a sibling, a colleague, or a stranger online, make sure to hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if it helps you out. Here's the assumption I want to challenge, that there's one clean answer to which generation saves better. There isn't, because the data doesn't show one generation beating the other. It shows both of them split against themselves. Gen Z has the highest rate of having no savings at all of any UK generation, around 1 in 5, slightly worse than millennials, at roughly 1 in 6. On the face of it, that settles the argument in millennials' favour. Except in that same research, Gen Z is also the most savings-active generation in the country. Over 40% of them are saving more than usual this year, the highest of any age group, 2 quarters running, and more than 1 in 5 Gen Z savers already sitting above 10 grand. That number just sitting there on a banking app, quietly growing. So Gen Z isn't worse at saving than millennials. Gen Z is more extreme than millennials, in both directions at once. Let's do the maths on that split. Take two 24-year-olds, same city, same rented flat, roughly the same income. One of them is putting away £500 a month aggressively, chasing a house deposit or an early investing goal, checking the ISA balance the way some people check the weather. That's £6 grand a year. Inside 3 years, they're comfortably past that £10,000 marker. The other one, same age, same income, same rent, isn't saving anything. Not because they're careless, because after rent, after bills, after the boiler or the dentist or a friend's wedding, there's nothing left most months. Just the dread of the balance dropping below zero before payday. Ordinary, those two people together, and you get a perfectly ordinary looking, average Gen Z saver who doesn't exist, who doesn't represent either of them. The average hides the split. And that's the trap almost every headline on this falls into. So why does this generation show up more split than the ones before it? I think it comes down to something you could call the engagement gap. A millennial in their 20s, a decade or so back, mostly got financial information from a bank leaflet in a drawer or a parent over the kitchen table, or nothing at all. A fairly flat, low level of exposure across the board. Gen Z grew up with financial content everywhere, all the time. One video auto-playing into the next, on the same apps they use for everything else. If you're the kind of person who leans into that, watching the investing videos, following the FIRE creators, opening the ISA at 19, you get pulled hard toward the super saver end. But if you're not that kind of person, or you simply can't act on it because there's no spare money, you get nothing extra from that same environment. If anything, it can make things feel worse, scrolling past someone else's spreadsheet at midnight. The information didn't improve for everyone equally. It improved significantly for people already inclined to use it. Think of it like one classroom, given unlimited free tutoring after school for anyone who wants it. The kids who were already curious, who had a free evening or two, race ahead. The kids working a part-time job to help out at home don't get worse at maths. They just don't get the same boost, through no fault of their own. Same room, same opportunity on paper, wildly different outcomes in practice. Now you might be thinking, doesn't more financial content online mean everyone should be a bit better off? And in principle, yes, awareness has gone up across the board. But awareness only turns into savings if there's actual spare income to point somewhere, and that's the part the content can't manufacture. No number of personal finance explainer videos can create disposable income out of nothing. So what's actually useful here, whichever half of that split you recognise yourself in? First, stop comparing yourself to the loudest voice in your own generation. The 15 grand at 22 story is real for some people, but it's the exception mistaken for the rule. Comparing yourself to it is comparing yourself to survivorship bias. Second, if you're already in the engaged half, the win is consistency, not intensity. £500 a month, the same transfer on the same date every month for 3 years straight, beats one dramatic £2,000 a month almost every time. Third, if you're in the half with nothing spare right now, the honest move is tracking, not saving. Get 1 real month of numbers down on paper, every receipt, every card tap, before you set a single savings target. You can't outbudget a genuine shortfall, and pretending otherwise just breeds guilt. This is where it gets really interesting, though. The whole Gen Z versus Millennials argument is a distraction from the real one. It was never a generation against a generation. It's engaged versus disengaged inside both of them, and that's the gap actually widening. The averages just make it look like a tidy generational story, because averages always flatten the interesting part out. So if you take one thing from this, it's that whichever generation you belong to, the comparison that matters isn't the other one. It's you, a year ago. That's the only comparison that actually tells you whether you're moving in the right direction. If this helped you see past the generational headlines a bit, hit subscribe, because I cover exactly this kind of the stat looks simple but isn't story every week. And I genuinely love to hear in the comments, Gen Z or Millennial, which half of that split do you actually recognize yourself in?